All right, everybody. Yet another week. This is episode 216. It's nice. It's nice. It's fall. It's cold. It's great. Everybody's killing deer. There's the fall run for fishing's kicking off. This is your boy East Coast Trev, and I'm joined by my good buddy, Mr. Madman Mardick.
Could I get some intro music?
It's funny that you say that. It's super funny you're saying that. Today when I was driving down the road, I was literally thinking of how I was going to do the intro today, and I was like, I think I need to hit Mardick with some, like, I'm thinking like some Stone Cold Steve Austin intro music, dude, and like, we just like, boom, it's there. All right.
I was thinking something similar, but the way things have been going for me, I think I need like circus music because that's what I feel like in the woods lately.
You know, we could bring it back to the old East Coast days, bro. We could have straight like guest intro music if that's what you want. Like we can hit you up with some good intro music if that's what you need.
I need something to change my luck because lately it's been like dun, 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 like fucking pulling up in a clown car lately because it's been it's been some series of events.
Why is that though? Why do you say that?
Do you want the good side or the bad side?
I don't think it really matters. You're gonna give it to us anyway, so.
Well, the good part of it is I did not get sprayed by a skunk this week.
Hey,
so I got that going for me. Dude, I don't even know where to start. My bow fell out of the tree Saturday.
Oh, that's right. I remember that now. Yeah.
What
was the cause of that? Like,
so I figured it out after because I was baffled at the. So, long story short, I went in, hung in the dark. 5:15, I think I was like set up by. Maybe my bow was by 5.
Right.
At 9:36, my gear strap drops 4 inches, and my bow just does a flip out of the tree. You know, I thought it sounded god awful.
Like some high wire acrobats kind of thing.
Dude, yes, just front flip all the way down. Arrow goes flying. I cried for a little while before I climbed down and checked it, and everything appeared fine. Nothing seemed damaged. Like the arrow, even like the knock wasn't broken from, impact or
super important.
Everything seemed fine. Went home, shot my bow at 20, dead on, shot at 30, like nothing was wrong with it. But so I figured out what happened. It wasn't the gear strap's fault or anything. When I hung just below like a split in the tree. So where my gear strap ended up, it was right where the tree started to like taper out a little bit. I didn't notice it in the dark. So just below that gear strap, the tree was just a little bit narrower, and it just wasn't, the weight of the bow on one side, my backpack's on the other, because the backpack side that dropped a little bit, and when the backpack side dropped, 3 inches, the bow side was just enough to toss that bow out of the tree. I mean, I was speechless, man. Like, I could not believe that it was Trev's bloopers, but only it's me, and I don't like it. But anyways, bow was fine. I shot it a lot, that afternoon or, lunchtime, and everything seemed fine.
I've been through that a million times. I mean, just drop the bow out of the tree. I mean, everything. Like, that's part of it. I mean, that's part of being elevated, I guess, like, just.
I guess it's never happened to me. Never even close to happening.
Things go up, they must come down, right? I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, was that Newton's law?
I guess. Thomas Jefferson or something.
Yeah, and then Sunday afternoon, I had my first encounter with a vegan anti-hunter as I was going into the woods.
Yeah, well, I almost thought honestly today I was gonna have the same exact thing after you telling me this story the other day. I was kind of scared, but go ahead. What happened with you?
I pulled up. It was Sunday afternoon, so I'm going to public, but I'm parked on the side of a main road, and there's some cows there, and I got out of my truck, get dressed, full Huntworth, full camo. I'm taking off my Hey Dudes, putting my boots on, and this van pulls up, and this lady gets out, and she's like, "What are these cows doing?" So I look at the cows and I say, "It looks like they're eating." And she's like, "Well, what do they do?" And I was like, "Eat, shit, you know, just
Do
hanging
cow
out.
things?
She's like, are they rescues? And I'm like, no, they're beef cows. And she goes, oh, I'm a vegan. And I'm like, what do you eat? And she's like, plants. And I was like, I'm sorry. And she's like, oh, what are you sorry for? And I was like, my cows are eating your food. So she's just going on
Steve
about
Wood.
she's like going on about rescue cows and all that stuff, and like I'm trying to be as polite as I can, you know. So I told her that I was, you know, on the agricultural committee for the town, and you know, maybe we could talk about something about a rescue cow program or something. So I asked her, I said, do you have cows that need rescuing? And she's like, well, not for slaughter. And I'm like, okay, like I don't know what to tell you. So I'm also watching the clock, right? Because I'm trying to get in the woods.
Yeah, things are happening here. It's
So
time to go.
I go over to my driver's side and I open up the door and I take my bow out of the truck and
Right.
come back around as I'm talking to her. And finally I was like, listen, lady, I would love to chat with you all day, but I have a date with a deer this afternoon. And she flipped me off and started to walk away. And I'm like, hey, what was that for? And she's like, because you kill animals. And I was like, well, they eat your plants, so I'm just protecting your plants, so you should thank me. And she got in her car and she left. And the good news was I came out and didn't have any flat tires or smashed windshield, so I guess that was a win.
Yeah.
That was the first. It happens.
Whatever. She's upset. She's upset. I mean, hey, you know, it's not the first time. You know, it won't be the last. It is what it is. I was nervous today because the piece of public that I was on was previously a farm. And walking out, there was an older lady with a cane or whatever, and she must have been picking vegetables. They still farm it, right, agriculturally, and I was super nervous. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not trying, or they weren't supposed to be there, whatever the case may be. And the first thing that she says to me, she says, "Did you catch anything?" I was like, "No, didn't bring my butterfly net." Like, wasn't trying, you know, like. But I didn't say it. I was just like, no, I didn't see what I was looking for. You know, I seen a couple, but just not the mature deer I was looking for. And she's like, oh, she's this nice fall afternoon out here. And, you know, the norm, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. Thank God. Gotta go, you know? It was super weird. But, you know, like those are those things that you get touched by. And whatever. It is what it is.
You gotta be ready for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself in certain, depending on where I am, if I see or hear hikers coming, I like pull the Homer Simpson and I like back into the bushes and like crouch down. I let them walk by, and then once they get like 30 yards past me, I just come popping back out of the bushes and then head the other way because out of sight, out of mind, right? Like they know you're there, they know you're allowed to be there, they know it's hunting season, but like
there's big signs there, like say like it's hunting season from October to December. Like they're wearing orange, maybe you should wear orange, kind of thing.
Yeah, but they see you, and then they tell their, oh, I saw a hunter, and where you were, and then they start snooping around. Like, no, just I don't even want you to know where I was. Like, just
it's like it's like being in a tree stand and people walk underneath you. Because I've hunted a lot of like urban areas, and like the people start walking by and they're underneath the stand. They don't even know you're there. They're just walking the dog, and the dog's running around barking at you, but they don't know that it's barking at you, and that people are yelling at the dog. And you know, I had a crazy scenario like maybe 3 to 4 years ago, and I was in a stand, not all that high, probably the lowest I've ever hunted, and there's a walking trail to my south, and 3 or 4 people walk by. They had a dog, right? And they're walking by, and I can hear the guy saying to the girl, haha, that sucks for him. He's not going to see anything with us walking around the woods. Ha 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 ha. The kid's such a idiot. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. So I can hear him, and they're walking, and I can hear him walking up this trail, and then they get on top of this ridge, and the dog starts howling. And I'm like, oh, that's never good. I'm like, whatever. So I'm watching, due north, and my northeast, I kind of like glass over, and it was pretty close to probably one of the biggest bucks I've ever seen on public land. And he must have been bedded up on that ridge, and the dog ended up spooking him down to me. I didn't get a shot at him or nothing, but I mean, I seen the deer after they had, obviously kicked him out. But I just
If they're on the trail. They're used to seeing people
super, super. But
walk
I
right
think the
from them.
dog barking, I think had a
Right.
lot to do with it, but like pushed him off or whatever. But like, I don't get upset about that. Like a lot of guys you'll see on a lot of these hunting pages are like, oh, should I get out of the woods? Somebody just walked by me. God no. Like if you see these deer that are in some of these areas that we're in, you can literally see them off the trails, and they literally like. And I've watched deer before, like being in stand, and people walk by, and them deer just pick up their head. They watch you walk by. When you go out of sight, they go back to doing what they're doing. As long as you don't step off the trail or out of a motor vehicle or whatever. I mean, they're just so accustomed to seeing you guys, so it is what it is. So like somebody walking by, sometimes like and you hear stories of guys with like big bucks, like people walk by and then this big buck is trailing down your scent right behind you and you don't even know it, and guys will shoot the
Yeah.
buck. Like that
Well,
happens a lot.
Rob Cody's big buck last year had something to do with that, with a guy had just walked through or something.
Well, they get it
That
a
was
lot tracking too. Guys that are tracking, they're tracking deer, and then what happens is the deer goes back on the track and then starts to follow to see what it is. So it's the same
right.
exact principle.
That was actually the third part of my circus weekend. Last weekend was I had two hikers and a dog come by, and I was on private,
Right.
right? And I recognized who it was, and I mean I could have said something, but better again out of
Well,
sight,
then
out
there's
of
not
mind.
a conversation with two people in the woods,
Right.
and
And I went into the spot in the morning and found some really good sign.
they're probably
The sign,
accustomed to that person walking in the woods too, right?
correct, but
To an extent.
problem was they walked, and I was 15 yards off the two track that I came in on, and set up on some really good sign. I knew where this buck was going to be bedding, and I'm just hoping he comes out of there before dark. And these two guys and a dog walk by at like 5:15, that's prime time, right? That's like that last hour. And same thing, like they walked by, they never saw me. I'm literally, I may have been less than 15 yards from them. They did not see me. I let them walk by. I told myself, I said, you know what? Maybe the deer's accustomed to that. Maybe maybe they do it all the time, right? Maybe the deer waits for them to walk by, and now he's gonna get it. It's his, he knows now to get out of bed and come by. But the thing is, I knew I recognized who the people were, and I knew what they were gonna do. So I knew that at some point they were gonna come back by me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna stay in the tree until they go back by. And dude, they went by 20 minutes after legal light. So I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I can't catch a break between rain or, quality hunts getting ruined or morning hunts getting shortened by, suplexing your bow out of a tree. It's like,
I think in this weekend's not going to be any help to you neither. Like Saturday's going to be a shit show anyways, windy, and Friday, Saturday are both going to be windy and
rainy Saturday, windy Sunday. It's all right. November's coming.
I'll tell you this, man, the past 3 days, I've been trying to find this one buck. Like I found a ton of sign on him on Sunday on public land. Couldn't hunt, but I went in and scouted. We've been waiting for this wind to come so I can get on that side of the road. Little bit more pressure in that piece than I had expected, right? It was like I hadn't seen a bunch of cars. I had hunted the opposite side, blah, 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 blah. Sunday I went in there was 2 trucks parked there. I walked up on one of the guys setting trail camera, didn't even know I was there. Whatever, I found what I needed. So I had backed out, and I was headed back. I was just kind of grid searching my way through to head back. So I turned off and went back. I went in there and hunted one morning, didn't see anything in the morning. That night, seen a couple of deer, whatever the case may be. This morning, didn't hunt this morning. And then this evening, those does came back. I mean, the wind had switched from a southwest to a northwest, and there's a big buck in there. Like, definitely a big buck for sure, man. He's definitely in there somewhere. The does are in there, put 3 good solid sits in on him. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna move off. I was thinking about hunting there again, but it's like, how many times do you sit there? I think if I wait another week or so, I mean, might be a little bit better. I don't know. It's just I don't have no cameras, no intel. I'm just
Right.
kind of hunting the sign. So
With
I,
no cameras, he could be right where you think he is, and you might be set up
suck
in the right
daylight.
spot. He's just not coming out before
Yeah.
shooting light,
I think that's the fun part of it for me. Like, I mean, it's been so long that I've hunted without cameras, and still that anticipation. Like when you're sitting in that set, man, and like, bro, that next movement is the movement, you know. But there, you can tell with being that way, like. I'm not set on cameras, like saying, "Oh, this deer is gonna come through here," like that straight woodsmanship that we always talk about. Like, it's nice to be able to do that and not have to follow cameras. Like, I know everyone's probably like, "Yo, this dude's crazy." Like, there's so much technology out there. He probably could have killed that deer already or whatever. But it's been kind of fun, right? Where like you just
Yeah.
kind of go in and find the sign. And I've been super successful in other states doing this and not hunting cameras. So like to do it at home, I'm happy with it. Like to go in
Right.
there, I found the sign, been able to do what I needed to do, and hopefully, then capitalize on it. But it's good to see that there is sign in there and there's good bucks, dude. And I'm just gonna hunt it,
Right.
like. And I don't know what none of my other spots are, so I'm gonna go hunt two more spots tomorrow. One in the morning, one in the afternoon, maybe one Friday morning before the storm, and then be back at it Monday morning. So it's been kind of fun, dude. And I'm on deer. I'm on.
Yeah.
What's funny to say is I'm on deer more than if I had cameras. Like I used to run 16 cameras, and like would go into a set and not see deer and shit. Like now, like trying to put forth that effort in woodsmanship and hunt it like I should be hunting it. I I've yet to have a sit this year. I'm sorry. The other morning I didn't see a deer. But literally every single sit that I've been in on, except for one out of 5 sits, I've been in deer every single time. Like shootable. Like I could have killed deer every single time. But like
Mm.
I didn't. You know what I'm saying? So like
Yeah.
it's kind of fun. It's just waiting for the right one. I know it's gonna happen. So dude, it's about to crack. And let's be honest, that red moon shit that didn't do us any justice. I tried. I went to my stand. It said that yesterday it was that the deer were gonna come in at what, like
249.
Yeah, 2:49. My ass, dude. I didn't see a fucking chipmunk at 2:49 in the afternoon. Fucking
I've never
useless.
I've never seen a correlation with the actual times that they spit out. I mean, I'll look at them and it'll make me get a little bit more excited to see the dates read, but I can hunt. I'm not
It's
not
it's
playing.
crazy. So like in the fishing world, like and all animals, mammals, every heartbeating fucking thing out there, like obviously we're all on moons, right? People act fucking crazy on full moons, like we know that. Like all shit goes to hell on a full moon, right? People are wild. Drive down the road, people, just humans are fucked up on a full
Well,
moon.
lately it just seems like it's just a full moon every day of the month now because everybody's just fucking crazy.
It's true, but like so in the fishing world, like I was saying before, like the fishing world, like you always the correlation of catching fish or fish runs are around full moons with the gravitational pull and the tides, and I could bore you with some shit, but in all reality is this: 5 days before a full moon and 5 days after a full moon are phenomenal fishing days, right? Like the moving of more fish coming in, they're feeding a lot harder, the tides are running faster. There's a lot of shit that correlates with it, and things are really good, right? The day of the full moon, the actual day of the full moon, are probably some of historically for me are the worst fishing days ever. The actual day
Yeah.
of.
I could say the same thing about deer hunting from personal experience, right? Not regurgitating something I read or
No,
heard.
and
From
I'm not
another podcast.
regurgitating anything neither.
Right, exactly. Real life experience, right? Like leading up to a full moon is the best activity I have in the woods, in the
For
tree,
sure.
and on camera, and
Mhm.
after. I don't care what color it is. I don't care if it's a red moon, purple moon, blue moon, but
It doesn't affect me.
few
Blood
days
moon.
leading up to and after, yeah.
Hey, known fact, there is no blood moon this year, Lou
I
says.
saw that.
Meteorologist Lou says there's no
I saw
blood
that.
moon.
Now that I think about it, though, we should look into having maybe a red moon expert on the podcast because I really don't know much about it.
Is there Red Moon professionals?
I'll look into it. I'll do some research.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, listen, dude. Like, obviously, leading up to it has been some of the greatest days in the hunts, right? Like in the rut, like you're always looking for those full moons and so on and so forth. Fishing, same way. You're always looking for those moons, because they do. Like, dude, if you gave me a full moon in July, 5 days before, 5 days after, bro, I'd give my left leg for that. August, same thing, before and after. But the day of the moon, like I tell all my customers, don't book the day of. Like it's the worst, dude. It's genuinely the worst. Like, and that's not even purposely doing that, but it's like just historically seeing that and how the fishery plays effect in those days. Like, dude, my biggest fish come in the full moons of July and the full moons of August. I've caught more 50+ pound fish on those two full moons, July and August, than I ever have in my entire life, man. Like they're some of the best. And I November you're looking for that too. You're looking for those full moons. It's about to happen, that it's going to kick off that rut. Like, like that's just the way that it goes, but that whole red moon shit's garbage.
I mean, I don't know that
it's
not going to kick off. It's not going to kick off the rut, but you're going to see more activity. But like for instance, like not this Saturday, the following Saturday is full moon, right? October 28th. It's a Saturday. I'm off. A lot of listeners are going to be off. I'm not going to not hunt because it's a full moon.
Right.
It's Saturday. I'm going to be in the woods. It's just historically.
How many times has the jury chart said that it was going to be a bad day hunting and you went hunting anyways?
How many times I said it was going to be a great day and you don't see shit?
And you went hunting anyways. So it doesn't really correlate,
man. Don't get me wrong, I check it every time, and if it says it's going to be great, I get a little bit more excited, but I'm not going to hold my breath, and I'm not going to plan my hunting days around it. You know what I mean? I hunt when I can hunt.
Speaking of success, man, do you got a killer's corner for us? I know there's a couple of good ones in there, man.
I do. I lost it, though, because I was looking at the moon chart. First of all, I got shout outs to Alexander Fagan, Gene Gumphrey, and Stephen Carpenter, because they actually reached out to me with a little advice to get rid of the skunk smell in my clothes.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Did it work?
You guys. I didn't really get to. I stuck with Plan A, the one that we had originally planned for.
Yeah.
And that worked. So I didn't really have to go with their advice, but I had a backup plan.
So it's crazy. I'll touch on that real quick. Baking soda, hydrogen peroxide, and that stuff is the major ingredients in scent away. So just call it for what it is, but that was kind of where we went.
The other one that came up a couple times from the one Alex and Gene had sent me was a little bit of Dawn dish soap too, right? Because Dawn dish soap's it's a degreaser. And the skunk spray is oil. That's why it's thick. So, but anyways, appreciate you guys for looking out. And the other thing too is Alexander told me that skunks take about a week to 10 days to build their gland back up to spray. So she told me I had a window this weekend. Even if I ran into him, he wasn't going to be able to spray me again. So
that's good knowledge.
Yeah. And then the other thing we talked about, she said, if I get a chance to catch that little bastard, if he is all white, she said he'd fetch me a pretty penny, because I guess the more striping they have, the more white in the skunk, the more money they're worth. But I don't know that I would sell them, dude. I think I kind of want a skunk hat. I have actually it's right behind me. I got my coonskin hat right here. I think I want a skunk skin hat, but I got to catch them first. Shout out to Ryan Mack and Jackson Hardesty, both with nice does, and they both, obviously they must not listen to podcasts that much, because they're both calling for the return of Killer's Corner. So obviously they haven't listened to the last couple episodes, because they would have heard it. But shout out to you guys. Sam Whitehead with a doe a few weeks ago with the son. Bro, Case and Carpenter, certified killer. Certified. Give that boy a sticker. He went out for youth pheasant season, shot some clay pigeons first, and then he got himself 2 pheasants. And
he's on like every week. Turkey season, duck season, now pheasant season. We're just waiting on the deer season.
It's coming. I would put money on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Alexandra Fagan again. She shot her first early season muzzleloader buck in Iowa, 19 weeks pregnant, getting it done
Yeah.
in the
And
Huntworth
she's
too.
and she's ready. And she's ready to start trapping, dude. She was Snapchatting me the other day about she was trapping, dude, doing some nuisance work for one of the towns. She's a killer, absolute killer, man. One of my favorites.
For sure. She was actually. I had a little thread going with her between the skunk thing and all that stuff, and she actually had picked up some Huntworth at Farm and Fleet. I want to say whatever, like equivalent to our Tractor Supply, and saying how impressed she was,
like a Royal King.
Yeah, sure. And she's just saying how I forgot exactly how cold she said it was out there, but she said it was like super cold with the wind chill and all that stuff, and she said she was really impressed with how warm it kept her.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of our sponsors, let's thank those guys and let's get this podcast underway. Huntworth gear. Guys, if you guys aren't using Huntworth, use the promo code RUNT. It's RUT20CT, right?
HNT.
Oh, it's HNT20CT.
Correct.
All right. Well, it's HNT20CT. Correct. It is the Rut sale, 20% off of everything on there. They are our premier leading partners, Huntworth gear. It's about to get cold, so you guys want to get that heat boost. We're actually lined up with Elkin at this time, but soon to be up in that heat boost. Some great products, man. One of my favorites. I put it through the ringer, dude, and it's still lasting out. nor'eastergamecalls.com, guys. Still a couple of grunt tubes, not much. They are flying off the shelf. I was talking to Mark the other day. He was saying that he was sending them out all over, so make sure to get on over there, nor'eastergamecalls.com, and check those out. Also, Latitude Outdoors. I'm pretty sure that rope upgrade is still in the works. So if you guys are upgrading your 10mm ropes, make sure to use the promo code rope upgrade on that one. Save yourself on that. And then everything else, make sure to use the promo code outdoor drive. Save yourself. It's like 15 to 20%. What's that?
The outdoor drive promo code's kind of dangerous for me because I've been kind of like just picked up a new pair of knee pads. Like I wasn't a knee pad guy when I first started.
Have you used the Latitude knee pads?
So I had them a couple years ago, and I really wasn't a sitter.
Right.
So and Brower was looking for a pair, and I wasn't using mine, and I think they were sold out at the time. So I ended up hooking Brower up with them, and then this year I found myself wanting to sit more, and I'm like, shit, I don't have knee pads now. So I used the promo code, got some more knee pads, and I'll tell you what, it's a game changer, man. Like they're really good knee pads.
It's crazy though. Like the thing with the knee pads, right? It's like one extra thing to throw in there. It's the same with the back band. You know what I'm saying? Like it's simplistic, right? So how long are you going to sit in the tree? You know, like what are you going to bring? Like I go to put my backpack on, dude. I don't even want to weigh my backpack. I should have been rucking with you.
Should have been rucking with me? You were making fun of me the whole time when I was rucking.
I felt like I was rucking. Been rucking backing up and down the mountain, dude. It's freaking ridiculous.
Worst comes to worst, you can wear your knee pads in.
For sure. I don't wear my saddle in. I always put it in the backpack.
And then with the back band, I run the Method 2. I see no reason for a back band with the Method 2 because I can pull that upper part of the saddle up a little higher.
So I'm in the Classic.
Yeah, so that's a little different.
So it's a little different. But yeah, it is what it is. But last
story, use the promo code.
Yeah.
I'm using it. You
Outdoor Drive. Last but not least, Bowhunters United. Guys, bowhuntersunited.com. Make sure you get on over there. It's a free website. Tons of giveaways. They're doing some great things over there. Make sure to get on over there and sign up for that. It's a free. They're advocates for us as bowhunters in the political world. Make sure you go and check those guys out. They're great people. Make sure you go and check out all of our sponsors. They're right down here. The link's right down here below. And if you guys are all in it and you guys are clicking links, make sure to head on over to our YouTube, hit the like, subscribe button, and don't be afraid to give us a 5-star review on any of the platforms that you are listening to the podcast. It only helps us grow, and we appreciate everything else. And, hey, there might be some merch over on theoutdoordrive.com. The link is down below, so you guys can click on that. Some good stuff, dude. So we want to wish everybody a good week It's getting close to the rut, man. It's that time, dude. The pre-rut is underway. People,
Yeah,
there's some good
I
bucks
mean,
dropping, dude. There really is, like,
for
some
sure.
studs. It's starting. It's kicking off, man. It really
But I mean,
is.
if you look ahead, like, so it's Wednesday the 18th right now, right?
Right.
We get through this week. Next week, it's what we were just talking about, right? Like
Yeah.
it's those 5 days leading up to the full moon, which
Mm-hmm.
historically is always good activity. But look at the dates, dude. 23, 24, 25, 20. Like
Stellar
that
dates.
that's scrape. They start hitting the scrapes real hard. They're gonna start responding to some calls, some rattling
Mm-hmm.
possibly. Like it's gonna pop off very soon here.
So it's crazy. So, like, the last week of October is my go-to week. The first week of November is your go-to week. Like, I've shot historically my biggest deer in the last week of October. You've shot your biggest deer the first week of November. So, like, those 2 weeks are those weeks, and it just takes a little bit, man. With this full moon falling on those down that last week of October, forget it. It's game changer. Absolute game
Yeah,
changer in my opinion.
I would agree a little bit. Yes, I shot my biggest buck to date on November 2nd. But historically, I'm a big like
Six,
I'm
seven,
looking at
eighth.
like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for sure. Bow wise, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
once you get to gun season, forget about it. Like I can't tell you how many big bucks I've killed like
12, 13,
16,
14.
17,
Yeah.
18, 19, 20, 21. But archery, yeah, I'm looking at six through Veterans Day.
Mm. Yeah, the
But
11th is
like I
always a
said,
touch
once,
off.
once we get into next week, man, from the 25th on, just forget about it. Get in a tree,
Right.
you know?
Well, let's break it on over to Nakai. Enough of the deer talk. Let's go talk about something wild and crazy up in the
Way
wilderness.
cooler than us, that's for
Way
sure.
cooler, for sure. Let's go check them out.
The Outdoor Drive Podcast.
All right, we're back on the phone with Nakai, man. It hasn't been all that long of a time since we've talked since the last time, man. How's everything been, dude?
Everything's been really, really good. No complaints over here.
No, is it crazy being back home, or and knowing that you're not gonna be able to accomplish what you accomplished on your last travels?
It's definitely bittersweet being back home. It was a blast out there, but I was itching once September 15th hit, and I was out in the woods back there. I was thinking about back home here, how you guys were doing. So it feels good.
That's awesome, man. Well, without further ado, why don't we get this thing underway? Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Nakai Northup, and I have a company called Rezlife Outdoors, which shares indigenous perspectives on hunting, fishing, cooking, and land stewardship and education. And I'm just passionate about the outdoors. I grew up hunting, fishing, harvesting from the land, and that's really my passion on passing it on. But also being able to travel different places and different communities and be able to hunt with people from all over.
Absolutely. And for you guys that missed out, if you guys go back a couple of episodes, you'll see Rezlife, and that's Nakai. And we did a full-on interview about him and his business and so on, and what he does. The reason that we're having him back on this week is he had an amazing trip to Alaska. And we had talked a little bit about it on the last podcast, but we really want to. It happened and things went absolutely haywire, so we kind of want to hear about it, man. So I guess without further ado, why don't you just tell everybody? Just start it off where it started. Take us through the whole entire trip from start to finish, all the little details, man, because it's absolutely amazing to watch this whole thing unfold.
For sure. Yeah. So we have some family friends, Steve Pearson and John Matson, and Steve's been going out to Alaska for 30 years. and he started going out with his father, and then John started coming along about 23 years ago, and they've formed some really awesome relationships with some tribal communities and different members of different nations out in Alaska, specifically in McGrath, Alaska, a small little town about an hour flight from Anchorage, past the Alaskan range, right on the Kuskokwim River. And my dad has gone out with them a couple times. They went out. Last time my dad went was 10 years ago. And the last time he went, John actually got attacked by a grizzly bear. And he didn't hit it the best and was gave it like an hour and a half and wanted to get in and track it. Got into some thick stuff, and the bear was on him in no time. And John wears the scars of that to this day. They got the bear the following year, and he never skipped a beat. He's gone every year since. But some crazy experiences have happened out at this camp.
Hold on, time out. Before you get too crazy into this, now we didn't even know about none of this. Take us through, like, what do you know about that? Because that's got to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, so John was literally on his hands and knees, trailing blood. And my dad and Steve were, I think they said about 30, 40 yards to the left of him. And as John was looking, he just saw bushes start folding down and could hear the grizzly roaring. And it came in on him, and he went to go lift his gun. And he shot it as it was getting ready to run by him. And when he took that shot as it was running by him, it turned and came right for him. It bit the gun, threw it from his hand, which spun him, bit him on the butt cheek, flipped him over from there, bit his stomach, then worked his way up to his head. He put his arm over his head like this, bit the scalp. He has an 8-inch scratch on his skull from the grizzly's tooth, tore his head. His scalp was hanging over his head. And weather conditions weren't good. They were able to shoot the bear. The bear ran off and died. But they were a mile from camp. They had to hike back to camp. They tried calling in to get medevac. Weather was too bad. They had to cancel the flight 2-3 times, and they didn't get out there until the next day, and got him into Anchorage and were able to save him. They stayed up all that night just trying to keep him awake. They wrapped him with like a lot of their gear on their head, tried to do as much to control bleeding. But yeah, they ended up saving his life. He ended up pulling through, and he's gone every year since. He's never missed a beat with it, and was able to also get the bear.
Wow.
That got him. Yeah.
That's insane. Like, you know, the thing about it is, like, you hear about all this crazy stuff, and everybody, obviously, like you going into it, you had some type of fear, right? Because, and especially after hearing that story, but like, all these hunters go through all these motions. Like, you know, we had a good friend, Josh Stubbs, that was going, and he was going to hunt grizzlies from a tree stand. And obviously there was these emotions that are going through you, like, we're going to be in grizzly territory, and grizzly things happen in grizzly territory. So, like, I'd imagine that you went through that too, but then to have that story on top of it, I could only imagine the feelings and the emotions that you went through.
For sure. So we get into McGrath, and we had a couple weather days where we couldn't fly into camp, and it ended up finally clearing up, and we only missed like a day of hunting, which wasn't bad. And we were able to fly in. We get into camp late in the day, get set up. And that first day we can hunt after flying, we head over to our glassing point, and it's an absolutely beautiful mountain range. And being, you know, an East Coast boy, I'm not used to spotting and stalking and being able to glass mountain ranges and valleys. And it was quite the experience, seeing blueberries all over the ground in September. And we get over to the glassing point, and the first thing we see down in the valley is we were confused at first. And like I said, they've been going for 30 years. And we were looking at it, and we were like, is that a black bear? Is it a grizzly? At one point, he was kind of sprawled out and stretched out. We're like, is it a wolf? And out there, the community is really big. The tribal community is really big on predator control, because they each get one moose tag a year. And that moose meat goes a long way in those tribal communities and in those small rural Alaskan communities. So they had a problem a couple of years back where they had to restrict hunting. They made an agreement to restrict moose hunting for 5 years in certain areas just to get the population going, and then we're able to fight with lawmakers who have no clue what's going on in these communities and having to live off sustenance to get predator control in. So wolves were like, if you see one, please take them. So we thought it was a wolf, and then he sat up, and we were like, shit, that's a big grizz. And we were looking at some caribou that were up on a ridge that we were on, just higher up, and he was down low in this valley. And they looked at me, and they said, well, do you want to go hunt a grizzly bear? And, I've never seen a grizzly bear. I've never seen anything. And, of course, knowing that story, and I was kind of looking at the caribou. I was like, I don't know. I might want to go up there after a caribou instead of that grizz. And they were like, well, let's go. And so we started that stalk. And when we got to the bottom of the mountain, you walk down this mountain into the valley, we were about 700 yards from them. Wind was pretty good. The ground there is it's like walking on a wet sponge, and then there's a bunch of like ankle grabbing brush. So we were sneaking down. I lost my GoPro on this stalk, so that was rough. But sneaking down, we snuck past them, and we got downwind, and we came out into the opening. The valley, there were a bunch of brush patches and then openings. We got into the opening that we last saw him in, and he ended up popping out about 250 yards above us. And we got set up. We had shooting sticks, and seeing an animal of that size, and of course that's the first grizzly bear I've ever seen. So I didn't have anything to reference it off to know truly how big it was, and just like how amazing of a grizz it actually was. But he had no clue we were there, and he gave me a good broadside shot and whacked him with the first one, and he dropped right down. And he stood up, and this is where you really admire the strength of some of these animals. You get a strong respect for them. And he dropped, but he got back up, and I hit him again and hit high and hit some spine, and that was it. From there, we were able to get in closer, finish him off, and then kind of be awestruck. So the bear right now, he's definitely a Boone and Crockett. For a grizzly bear, the skull has to be 24 inches, and he's 26 and a half right now is what he's measuring at. So the people out there were telling me maybe top 15 in the world for grizzly. He's a 9-foot grizz, and just massive. And walking up on an animal like that, there was no ground shrinkage. The hide alone was like 130 pounds. So packing that out, plus with 40 pounds of gear in my pack, going back up mountain was the hardest thing I did. And this was day one, first day being able to hunt, first stalk, first everything, and first real experience out there in the bush. And it was this massive grizzly, and it's a bigger grizzly than anyone else in the group had ever shot. And they, like I said, they've been going for 30 years, and in the time they've been going to this specific camp, they've shot 9 sows and only 2 boars, and he was a big boar, which was really cool. So we were able to get them all butchered, pack them back to camp, all that good stuff. The following day, we wake up, we go get up to our glassing point, and there's a herd of caribou right where we want them. They're working our way. So my dad is up to bat, and it's probably 10 o'clock, and he drops a nice bull. And so we get them gutted up. They're getting them back to camp. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go keep hunting. I was like, that's your animal, Dad. You can go take care of them, do what you got to do. I'm ready to hit the mountain more and glass. And I go to the same glassing spot where we found the grizz, and I look over. And from this spot, this is probably the spot we spent the most time glassing. We saw wolves from here, moose, grizzlies, black bears, caribou, a whole bunch of game all in this one valley. And I sit down at our spot, and as soon as I pull out my binoculars, I see a black bear just wide out in the open. And he's pretty far off. And I sat there literally from 11 o'clock till I was able to get a opportunity to put a stalk at him around 5, just watching him work his way over. He took a nap for like an hour and a half and some brush and then popped back out. And that was like new for me, like being able to watch an animal all day long and watch and like pinpoint different game. That was a cool experience of it for sure. But then day 2 with that, my dad got the caribou, and then I put a stalk on that black bear, was able to get that black bear at about 187 yards. And again, no clue that we were there. It worked out perfect. He popped out right where we expected. And that was a fun pack out too. I realized pack outs in Alaska are a lot different than back home. I like dragging deer a lot better than packing out big bears. And then from that, everything kind of went cold. We didn't get anything until the last day we were hunting. We saw a lot of game. The rut was relatively slow for moose. They weren't responding to calls much. We were seeing them almost every day, but they were way off in the distance, and they weren't really too worried about us calling to them. We had one close call with a moose. I put up a video of him. I used my little mag view to look at him through my phone, and he got within 400 yards, but looked like he was coming our way, and then just started cruising, and they can sure cover some ground. And it gets to the point where we're 10 days without a kill, and it's the last day. I fly out the next day because I have to seal the bear, the grizzly hide and the skull. And so it's the last day, and visibility is rough. It's really hard to see, but earlier in that day, we saw 7 bulls in a place that we call Musarado. And it's literally the spot where we saw the most bulls all week. In this one valley there, it was just loaded. And 7 bulls one day, and they were starting to respond to calls. We were calling, and we were watching bulls a mile, 2 miles off start running our way, like following identical trails. We saw there were one section where 3 bulls came down the exact same trail coming our way. And John, who was one of the guides with us and who has been going for a while, was sitting up right past our meat house, and about probably 600 yards from camp, and he was calling from there. That was our game plan. There was a stream where we'd get water from, but it's really steep, and we didn't want to have to pack uphill. So our game plan the whole time was to try to call a moose as close as we could. John was able to get this one to cross, and visibility was rough. I was looking through my scope and couldn't see anything, but that scope that Swarovski gave me was really wicked. It has an illuminated reticle, and that made all the difference. I was able to sneak in a bit on him. He came up, we watched his antlers. Those things are massive. And once you find antler, like once you're glassing, it's crazy. You're looking out and you're looking a mile off, and you can just pinpoint and find antler sticking out. But his antlers, you can see him coming up through the spruces, and he comes and he gets about 450 yards out, and he beds down. And it's like 7 o'clock at night. Sun's getting ready to go down. It's raining. There's windows of fog blowing through where we couldn't see him at all. And then it's clear and we could see, and then we couldn't see him at all. So we figured that if we couldn't see him, he couldn't see us. And we started moving our way closer and just trying to mark where we last saw him. We were able to sneak into about 170 yards, and he was bedded down. And set up. I hit him once while he was bedded. He jumped up, and I hit him again and just high shoulder shot and sat him down right there. And last day, last chance, I flew out the next day out of camp. And it just all came together. I was sitting there at camp the day before, and like, I've already had a hunt of a lifetime, being able to harvest like an amazing bear and the black bear as well. And my dad getting a caribou. And this is my first time I've had the opportunity to hunt with my dad in a couple of years, just with things going on in life. And I was sitting there thinking, I was getting down. I was like, man, I really wanted to get a moose. And it just all ended up working out. Last day, last chance. And it's funny because that's when all the real work started. When we were gutting the moose, it started to snow, and we were out there quartering and getting everything packed up till about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. So when we finally strolled back into camp. And from there, I flew out first, and then we got the rest of the guys out. The moose is a 64.5 incher, 4 tines on one side. So he was all around just a really good bull. They say probably a year out of his prime, but, you know, just a perfect, this trip was a whole lot of firsts for me. And to go 3 for 4 on my tags, I had a caribou tag. But to go 3 for 4 personally, and then my dad to get his first caribou. He's gotten a grizzly, a black bear, and a moose before, so to get his first caribou, it was just a really great trip. We were able to interact with the tribal communities there, and, you know, it was really familiar. It's, you know, thousands and thousands of miles away from home, but it was really familiar. Everyone there rides 4-wheelers around. There's no, you know, supermarkets or anything like that. And when they're not riding their 4-wheelers in the winter, they have their snow machines and old pickup trucks. Like when we pulled up, when we landed on the plane to get back into town, they had just trucks on the runway for us. And they're like old Ford Rangers with the crank windows and like 22 bullets and like 1022 sitting in the back window because they have like a bunch of, they call them chickens, but like spruce grouse. And like in town, we were seeing like a mom, a good cow, and a calf just strolling around, making her rounds through. Everyone in town has a like a drying house for meat, like a big shed with screen all around it, and they hang up all their meat. You see moose antlers everywhere. With their COVID funds, the tribal community selected to get everyone in the community a deep freezer, a chainsaw, a meat processor and grinder. So they rely on it, and they really, hunting is a huge way of life for them out there. So it was really cool to see that, but it was also really familiar.
So I got a couple of questions with it. So what was the choice of weapon that you took with you? That would be my first question.
Yeah, I took a 300 Win Mag.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember you had mentioned on the last podcast that Swarovski had given you a sight. You had mentioned that and everything, and then you were, you know, working on tuning it in and getting it all sighted in and everything for the trip. But that was definitely. What did your dad bring for a round?
Yeah, so the gun, I have a Browning A-bolt, custom barrel on it, and whereas the Swarovski that they gave me was a Z6I, and we're shooting Barnes. My dad shoots a Tika.
Okay.
And we got the Swarovski all set up with the turret for ballistics with the bullet, so any range, just dial it up, and I have it sighted in good out to 500. And yeah, it was all the gun you needed. Steve brought out a 375
H&H.
Yeah. And
well, I guess after the whole scenario with the grizzly bear, man, you bring you pack a punch. Somebody's got to pack a punch.
Someone's got to pack a punch. Yeah.
Because that's the choice of gun for a guide in Africa is a 375 H&H, and the reason being is because you can speed shoot it and it packs a punch. Any type of dangerous game charging, it's a fast relay, and it's very dependable when they hit the target, and it will knock them down no matter where they hit them. I mean, and you're dealing with dangerous game. I mean, charging bulls, and I mean everything out there it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So it makes it kind of crazy, you know. That's a fun thing. Was there anything that was like kind of like, I know, like a trip like that, like was there anything that was like hard for you or tough being in an area that was like that, like you like struggled in that hunt, like coming from the East Coast to go there?
Yeah, one thing that took me a little while to adjust to was just like range perception. Like I'd look at some things and I'd be like, "Whoa, yeah, that's not that far. What's that's like 300-400 yards," and would range it, and it'd be like 7, 8, maybe 1,000 yards. And then you look at something and you're like, "All right, we're gonna walk over to this point," And I'm like, oh, all right, that's not that far, and it's a half mile away. So like just depth perception out there, it took a little while to adjust to, for sure.
Was it because that there's not a lot of trees? Like we judge on trees and
Right, right. It's trying to find something to base it off, and then it just seems like the land is bigger there, like so vast that there's section of trees, but for the most part, we weren't walking through any trees. It's really open. It's tundra, and there's patches of spruce, and you'll see some thicker like alder and stuff like that.
what was there like? What were you using when you were in spot and stalking to kind of like move around and like hide behind or whatever? Like when you're spot and stalking to get through, because there's a couple of you obviously, so you got a lot of bodies moving and you're trying to hide.
There were some alders that we were able to hug close to, but like that's also like another sketchy part. Like if we were going to, while we're walking together, we didn't ever have one in the chamber. But if we had to walk anywhere solo, we always chambered one up, because the grizzlies out there, they were telling us literally just hide in that thick stuff and wait for like caribou and moose to come by and then just come out of there. So what we're using to like walk up against as a wall behind us to not be silhouetted is where the bears hide. And we watched them the whole time, the whole 2 weeks, disappear into brush like that, and us not know where they were for hours, and then they'd pop back out. So yeah, it was a bit sketchy when it came to that.
So then taking it back to that black bear spot and stalk by yourself, I mean, like, dude, take us through like the mindset that you had to be in to do this on your own. Like, what even made you want to go there, like go and do that on your own and spot and stalk? Like, that's kind of crazy.
So that one, John ended up coming with me. He came later in the day, but still, it was weird because like my dad wasn't there, and I was expecting him to come back up, but he didn't ever come back up. So it was just me and John, and we made the stalk, and he's like, all right, like be aware, be alert, be ready. And we get down there, and like I said, we have that thick stuff to our back, and we're walking on the edge of a good open patch. We were waiting for him to get into this wider open patch, and we got down there, and he pops up, and he's just munching on blueberries. We were just watching bears eat blueberries the whole time, just munching on blueberries. And I don't know, there was this, you get that like hyper focus, like you're trying to just pick a spot, be consistent. And like with the grizzly bear, I was a lot more like my dad has a video, I'll send it over to you guys. And he's like, all right, when he stops, hammer him. And I'm sitting there, and like I'm like, I don't want to hit back because I know what happens if you hit back. And I'm like, and he's like, hurry up, like, and I'm like taking my sweet ass time, and I ended up putting the shot I needed to put on him. But still, just that pressure of like, if you hit back on a bear, there's a lot of danger in that. A wounded bear is not something you want to mess with, and they know that from experience. So with the bears, I was a lot more, I guess, nervous, anxious. With the moose, it was just like, yeah.
That it's just giant. Bigger. It's bigger than what you hunt anyway. It's the same thing, right? I mean, it's just there. And obviously like that's an added factor. That's a non-trainable factor where like where are you ever going to, I mean, you can shoot out to 500 yards somewhere. You can practice, walking up hills and getting, your so you don't fatigue and stuff like that. But like, there's no training of that anxious nervousness of taking a dangerous animal. Like, there's no training of that. And when it comes down, you better make your mark.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely being able to control emotions, control your body, because I mean, my scope was definitely wobbling at first, and just trying to, be confident, make sure I knew I could make the shot. I knew I wasn't worried about the distance. I wasn't worried about anything like that. It was just trying to make sure it was all on point. And the terrain was wearing for sure. Like anytime you're going uphill, it was rough. You get to points where it's steep stuff, And like packing that grizzly hideout, like I said, that was day one that we were able to hunt, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done hunting wise. And like, you know, nothing out there was easy. And there's points where I was taking like 10, 15 steps, and I'd have to stop because I was completely out of breath. And then go some more, another 10, 15 steps, catch my breath, go. And it was just steep and rugged as hell.
Did you do any kind of physical or endurance training leading up to the trip, or what did you do?
Yeah, so I was doing Lantern Hill with a weighted pack, like 40 pounds, what I was going to walk around with like usual. And that was my main. I started running a bit.
So I started rucking late this summer. I got into it a little late, and Lantern Hill is actually one of my goals at the end of the summer, and I just never got to it, but it's on my bucket list. Like next summer, I am definitely rucking to the top of Lantern Hill.
It's a good one.
Did you go up the steep side from Winnechaug, or did you come up like from the pond side?
I go up Winnechaug side, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Well, let's do it. Let's make it a point. I want to do it with you next summer for sure.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Because there's a lot. What was like the altitude that you were hunting at? Was it a higher altitude than what we're used to?
So it's about 2,000 feet. And like I've hunted elk at like 11,000 feet. So altitude isn't something it wasn't too crazy.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if that played a factor in a lot of the physical endurance. I mean, we're all three of us are bigger dudes. A little bit, yeah. You know, like
right. Oh yeah, there were definitely times where I'm like, shit, my fat ass out here. For sure. And they were like, everyone in town. It was funny. Everyone who saw me was like, man, you brought a good packer this year. Like, I had a specific job when I was out there. And it was to carry heavy shit.
And that's all the people of the tribe and stuff that were kind of busting on you.
Yeah, everywhere in town. We went into the Alaska Fish and Game office in McGrath, and they were like, you brought a packer, good job. Like everyone, that's just their go-to. If they see a big dude, yeah, you're meant to be carrying meat out there.
Why is it a lot of the guys? They're a lot smaller, obviously, in size, or
there's some smaller folk, but there's a couple big ones, and they just are always looking for young, strong people to carry meat.
Is there something that like the tribes out there like they live a different style that like we would or something? Is there like, did you learn a lot about the tribes while you were out there also?
Yeah, so they actually have their own museum in town, which was really cool. And coming from a museum background and serving as head of education at the Pequot Museum here, I let them know that I worked at the museum and I'd really like to go. And it's in like a small municipal building, and they came and opened it up just specifically for me. And I got to walk through on my own. They showed me around really quick and just look at some of their history and see how, there's similarities with our people's history. And then all the new and cool stuff there. McGrath is one of the stops on the dog sled race day Iditarod.
Yep.
It goes through McGrath every winter, so they had a lot of the history of that and flying. So a lot of bush pilots from that area. There was so many of those small planes. Those small planes, that was another interesting part of the trip. 6'6", being this big, getting in the back of a Super Cub is interesting. For sure.
You had to fly out alone, right? Because there's no room for anybody else on your plane.
Yeah, it's just you and the pilot, and landing on mountains, and it was definitely quite the experience when it came to getting in the Super Cub and getting out of the Super Cub and being packed up with moose quarters and racks tied to the wings, and it was pretty crazy.
So with that, like, you obviously have to trust in your pilot.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that person 100%. Obviously does it a ton, right? Like, it's not like, I mean, they can land that thing on the smallest peak of the of a mountain and stuff like that.
So our pilot, who they've built a relationship over a long time. He's a local in that area. he's renowned. He's known for his skills, and so much so that we don't see any people. They've never seen another person while they've been hunting there, and no other plane other than the pilot has landed there. Other planes have tried and they've wrecked.
That's
like,
great
like
going into it.
Even the Alaskan state trooper like can't land there. And like anyone else. So he's like that guy for it, and he's known for it. And his dad was a really well-known pilot. His dad, they would do polar bear hunts, and he would land on ice sheets out in the Arctic to hunt polar bears.
What?
Yeah, crazy stuff.
So the big thing going into this obviously is having the good pilot to be able to put you in places that nobody else is able to go. Like that's obviously the full circle in this whole entire thing.
Absolutely. The animals that we hunt there have never seen a human in their life.
Now, my question is like, so you were saying that everybody gets, you know, as being a resident, are able to get, or that tribe gets one moose tag per family, obviously. So then how did you get your tag, or was it with the state, or it was totally separate?
Yeah, it was through the state, and the unit that we were hunting, it's a registration hunt. So like Fish and Game, to get numbers, they'll do registration hunts to see how many bulls were harvested and general size and things along those lines. So yeah, it was just purchasing a tag, an $800 tag, and the registration part of the tag is free, and you just have to fill it out and send it back in. But yeah, there's plenty of, a lot of people go out there and are able to hunt moose like on their own. You just need a guide for grizz and stuff like that.
So you can hunt moose, because I know like Alaska is like super strict on hunting certain animals. You have to have a guide in Alaska. You can't just go and hunt anything.
So grizzly is one of those. Alaska, there's for moose, there's a lot of drop hunt opportunities and like float hunts where they'll like pretty much an outfitter will set you up with a boat, a rowboat, and drop you off on a river, and you'll float down and be able to call different points. And there was a lot of hunters out there who were doing that.
And being able, so they do that. So you don't need to have a guide to be able to moose hunt. It's just on the dangerous game side, obviously.
Yeah. There's a few animals that they require a guide for.
But you had a guide at that point, right? Anyways.
Yeah. So Steve and John are both guides where that comes in. So yeah.
So they live there, or they're from back here?
They're from back here.
And they were able to register and become guides in Alaska?
Yep.
Is that a lot to be able for them to do? Like, is it, or they just over the time they've trained and gotten?
I think a lot of it is time that they're putting in, and like, for instance, while we're out there, for Steve to move up a class and guide, I had to record him like fleshing a hide, caping out a bear, knuckling a bear, getting the paws out, and going through that whole process to send into Alaska Fish and Game.
Oh, so that there's different tiers.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's so cool that they do that, and being able of being residents here to be then a guide in Alaska. I mean, that's an accomplishment in itself, right? I mean, like that's got to be insane in the amount of years that they've spent. I mean, how old are these gentlemen?
Steve is in his 60s. John is, like my dad's, in his 50s.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, Steve's a mountain goat for sure. He summits Mount Washington yearly, and he's out there running the mountains in Alaska every year.
And when he's guiding, is it just for the hunt that you guys went on, or does he go there a lot to guide for other things?
So they were telling me about, they've gone out and done sheep out there, which is like, they were telling me a whole different game, like, dangerous terrain, climbing up those shale cliffs with loose rock, having to hike up rivers, cut through brush just to start getting elevation. But yeah, they go out, and his thing now is he's brought all his kids, his daughters, his sons, and they try to bring people to be able to experience, friends to have that experience. They are really good dudes.
Do they need volunteers?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, Nakai, make sure that, if there's ever a topic of conversation and they need friends to be able to go, that, me and Steve can be, we're ready at the drop of a hat. We are there. No questions asked. No.
We're kind of built for packing too, you know what I mean?
We're packing boys. Yeah.
For sure.
The three of us, we look like Packers. We show up. They're not going to let us leave, bro. They're just going to the tribe's going to be like, these three dudes, they're in, bro. I don't care what it takes. Right?
I'm about to start rocking Lantern Hill tonight.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nakai, was probably one of your favorite things while you were in Alaska? I know maybe not hunting, maybe it was something else that kind of came to mind, or.
Yeah. Truly, like, just being off grid for 2 weeks was pretty amazing. Like, not having cell phone service, not, constantly picking up my phone and, worrying about what's going on in the world, and just kind of being able to soak in truly, sharing that terrain with those animals. And, to have success in their world was really amazing, and be able to have really the full experience. I got to everything that I dreamed about wanting to accomplish on this hunt, luckily was able to happen. I didn't leave Alaska disappointed or feeling like I didn't try my hardest, and that was really wicked. And then being able to see the people, and see there's a lot of similarities, and feeling very familiar, and then just having a new experience, a new place to notch that in my belt and say, yeah, I've hunted here, I've had success here, and I'm getting a big animal, a couple big animals under my belt, and really good stories to share, and a really full freezer right now, which is pretty amazing.
Did you take? Do they eat the grizzly meat, or is that like a?
So we ate a good portion of the meat out at camp. Some people, depending on what they're eating at times of year, some people don't like them because they get kind of like a rotten fish taste. They were saying, Steve and John were telling me about a couple that they've eaten that, like, they cooked with potatoes, and even the potatoes started to taste like rotten salmon. But this grizzly tasted amazing. So we ate quite a bit of it. We sent all the black bear home as well. But we definitely ate a good amount of grizzly bear.
What do you think it tastes like as far as, like, meat wise?
It was.
And don't say chicken. No, just kidding.
No. I mean, it was a good red meat. It wasn't super gamey. It was, to me, it was very mild. It wasn't excessive anywhere. We trimmed a lot of the fat off, and so that was a big part of it.
Greasy like black bear, or has its own consistency?
It's pretty greasy.
Yeah,
it's pretty greasy.
And obviously, like, like with black bear fat and stuff, they render it down and stuff like that. Is that the same on a grizz too?
Yeah, you can definitely do that with the grizzly.
And with the grizz, like, I know a lot of the times, like, a lot of the claws and stuff, and they kind of, like, get crazy about that stuff. Were you able to take that stuff home, or you have to get artificials?
I have a giant grizzly in my freezer with all his claws, and I have a good black bear in there as well with all the claws. I'm going to get the grizzly into a rug, and I'm going to put replica claws on him when he's on the rug, and the claws I'm going to make a big wicked necklace with some wampum out of them.
I had a feeling that's kind of why I asked, because that's...
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a big piece around my neck.
I mean, that's an accomplishment.
Next year it's Commitsing, baby.
That's right.
I do wanted to touch on that real quick, and I didn't really have an opening for it too, but I really wanted to reach out and thank you again, because I don't think I would have came if it hadn't been, our prior conversation, and I had a really good time seeing you there and checking it out. Saw some old friends, saw some new friends, and it's definitely on the list. I'll be back next year for sure.
Yeah, I was happy to see you there.
I was mad
I
at
was there.
Steve about that whole thing because I had the day off and he didn't even mention it, and he just sending me Snapchats and he's at Skamminson, and I'm like, bro, you could have told me. I would have taken the ride down. Like, come on, bro, you know. But it's just busy season. But it was cool to see the videos and stuff and everything you guys got going on there. That was.
I'm staying for nightlife next year though, because I left a little early and then I saw the videos you posted later that night and I'm like, I should have stayed.
Yeah, it gets jamming at night for sure.
Now, obviously, with being a tribesman and stuff, like that's a huge thing for you. Is the grizzly like that's like the monarch, right? For you guys, like
It's a extremely renowned animal, extremely respected animal, and different people have different perspectives on it. And personally, in my community, everyone has been with open arms and has been like they've been proud about it, which is amazing. And like I say, like anything we harvest, we always say thank you for. So every animal that I harvested in Alaska, I flew out with a pack of tobacco. I actually have it somewhere in here. I was able to pull a shell out of the grizzly shoulder too. But putting tobacco over and just, I told them thank you. Like, thank you for your harvest, and told him I've never seen a stronger animal. He was massive. Once we started, skinning him out, seeing just how big his forearm is like the size of my damn thigh, and just looks like he lifts all day long. And the claws on him, just letting him know he was powerful, that he's a great beast, and that we'll honor him. And that, we really respect it, and he's not going to be taken for granted. And that goes a long way. That's something really important in our community. Like when we go out and harvest mushrooms or pick blueberries, we'll bring tobacco and leave it behind. Anytime I harvest a deer, it's the same thing. We're thanking them for that sacrifice, and good stories to come in a full freezer.
What is the significance of the tobacco?
Yeah, so tobacco in really all over North America with the native communities, if you want to ask for anything, so if you were to ask a old timer if you could hunt on his land, you'd bring him tobacco or a pack of smokes and a $20 bill. If you want to go up to a drum group at Skammitson and ask them to sing a special for your family, you bring them tobacco. It's just a common way to ask for something or to give thanks for something and show respect. So that's like just pretty like universal in indigenous communities, is a gift of tobacco.
And that's it's just a thankful thing, so that you're not taking in and granted for whatever is given back, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Lou does that.
Yeah, we use it to pray all the time.
That's awesome, dude. That's super cool. I never knew. I mean, obviously I wouldn't know, but that's and you still do a lot of that to this day. Like is it like, and I know it's kind of crazy, but like tobacco leaves, or is it like cigarettes, or like what is the?
We always joke around. I mean, for the most part, we try to use stuff that we've grown and that we like get gifted. We'll get big bags of tobacco. But there's been times where I don't smoke cigarettes or anything like that, but I'll ask my cousin, like, sheesh, I forgot my tobacco. Let me get a bogey so I can break it. And I was like, the spirits won't mind. Like, it's an A for effort.
Let me get a loose.
Yeah. And we'll have to bust that down and use that tobacco. But it's, it's going through the motions, and at least, putting in the effort that goes a long way for sure.
Is it because like Connecticut Valley is a big tobacco area, or is it just to all indigenous people that?
You'll see it nationwide.
Okay.
You'll see it nationwide. Yeah, it's one of our medicine plants.
That's awesome. That's so cool. That and the reason I ask this is because like Germans, they put the special green leaf in with the roe deer or whatever the case may be to give thanks, because that's what they do among their community. That's why I asked that. Yep. Like obviously that's something that you do, and it's the same thing to give thanks back to that animal for sacrificing its life.
Yep, absolutely. Some people put like some grass or some brush in the deer's mouth or anything for its last meal. things like that.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with the Germans. Yeah, that's one of the things that they do. That's a huge thing over there. And I have buddies that live here now that are from there, and they still do it to this day. Like, they still do it here. You'll see their pictures, and I'm always messing with Marcus. What are you doing, bro? You know, like, it's just cool. It's cool that, because I guess, and not for anything. I mean, like, we give thanks, right? But it's not to that extent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, like, we obviously thank the animal, whatever the case may be, or whatever. What some people say a prayer and stuff, but I guess, American people are a little bit more. They take a little bit more for granted, I guess, than some of the others that have it a little bit different, right? What are you saying, Steve? I see the smile. What?
I was just thinking how ironic it is what do we do when we shoot a turkey?
We smoke a cigar, bro.
It's tobacco.
There you go. You put some tobacco in there. Look at that.
Yeah, that's our big thing.
So while we're on the topic, though, we're talking about, the spirit of the animals and all that stuff. I recently had an encounter with an all-white skunk, and I was hoping maybe I could get a little insight from you and your education. Like, is there any significant meaning to that, or am I just fucked?
Well, stay away from him, but
I tried.
He's still gonna spray you.
He got sprayed,
but
I got sprayed.
White animals, a lot of people associate them with being spirit beings. And skunk is really cool because that's a Algonquian word. So a skunk is our traditional way of saying skunk, and that's just English adopting that, which is pretty cool. Same thing with moose. Moose comes from the Algonquian language, our traditional language here in the Northeast. So yeah, definitely people associate those all white animals with being spirit beings, and in most communities they're off limits. So you just got to keep tolerate being sprayed, I guess.
So break.
You were going to tell me it's fine for like luck in my future and like a successful deer season or something like that, but instead I just got stinky hunting clothes.
Yeah, you just got some funk. But I always tell people, it's really how you feel in the moment, like how you take in that interaction with any animal. A lot of people ask me about like birds of prey, and in this area, people in different communities out west, people associate owls with like signs of death, and here people were starting to get feelings of that because it's almost like pan-Indian, people adopting things just because other tribes are doing it to associate that with being tribal. But we are like a unique people. We have different ways of life, different beliefs, and we have the Great Cedar Swamp that's behind Foxwoods, behind the museum, takes up most of the res, and in our language that's known as Uhuamik, the owl's nest. And the Great Cedar Swamp is a place where we'd send our women and children during times of war. So I always tell people here in the Northeast, and specifically in Mashantucket, that I don't think the owl is an animal that's associated with death, because why would we send our women and children there to a place called the Owl's Nest? I think they're our protectors. So it's really the feeling you get when you come in contact with these animals. And, does it make you feel happy? Did you think, oh shit, that's really cool? Or you were like, sheesh. And that's how I tend to go about it, is how I feel in the moment.
So can you break the wise tale for us then? Then what is the deal with white deer? Can you shoot white deer? Can you not shoot white deer? Pie balls? What's the let's just break it out here.
I think my personal moral code is, I see a piebald, I'm launching everything I have at it. And that all white deer, if it's a stud, I don't know if I got it in me to pass. I'd probably feel really bad at first, and I'd probably get cussed out a little bit in the community, but they do tend to have that status of being untouchable in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. That would be a real test of my willpower that day if a big stud albino buck walked out.
Well,
I might just send you guys a picture.
Yeah. Nobody else knows.
Yeah.
Is that what it is with the grizzly too? That some different tribes you cannot kill the grizzly?
Yeah. I had some backlash from the grizzly, from different people, but it's also people who a lot of times people complain about issues that they don't have to deal with firsthand. And one thing we don't have to deal with firsthand is grizzly bears eating our one of our main food sources.
Mm-hmm.
Out there in the community, when I came back to the community, everyone shook my hand. Everyone congratulated me. Everyone said thank you. And that's really what it's about, because at the end of the day, it's about preserving food sources for future generations. They said they did a study, and one grizzly bear that they followed around killed 70 moose in a year.
Wow. That's insane.
So it goes a long way. Predator control is a real thing. It's important. Everyone thinks that you can have the same amount of coyotes and deer in the backyard and they're going to live harmoniously. It's not the case. So being able to have a healthy balance, and these people do have a strong respect for these animals, especially, that's what they have to deal with every time they walk in the woods, is the potential of getting attacked or not having moose for their great-grandchildren to hunt one day. And we can regulate humans pretty well. They do a really good job at their process out there in Alaska, but they deal with a lot of predators there. The grizzlies hunt black bears.
Wow. That's nuts. And that's what they hunt. That's how they survive. Like 365 days a year, they're getting ready for the next winter. Like that's how they make it through. Like there's no big Y. There's no propane truck that brings heat there. That is not the way that it goes. Like they are still living like their ancestors lived 100 years ago. Like that's reality.
It gets 50 below out there. And they, every house has wood stoves. They all cut wood. The whole town is run off of a generator. In their busy season in the summer, it's a population of 300 people. In the winter, it gets less because 50 below is going to get a lot of people thinking of warmer places.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they have oil brought in on a barge upriver right into town, and that's where they get all their grocery drop-offs, and then for their energy, for their power. And something really cool out there is the Starlink. Elon Musk Starlink, big time out there. Came in clutch. That was the only time I had Wi-Fi out in McGrath, is when we'd go to someone's house and they had a Starlink, and it worked like a charm.
Well,
they swear by it out there.
We can't get away from Starlink. Yeah. I was thinking about buying Starlink when I go to the North Woods of Maine just so I can have it, and then I realized I don't want it because I want to be away from people. That serenity of just not being around people is just so encapsulating, right? Like it's just so important.
I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah.
I have one quick question for you, though, Nakai. Being from the East Coast, the Northeast, and going to Alaska, they're such different areas, right? Like every vegetation-wise, elevation-wise, all that stuff. Is there any particular skill sets that you had from home that you were able to apply out there that helped you out? And then also, is there anything you learned hunting out there that you could bring back home as a new skill to help you hunt the Northeast?
Yeah, I'd say that patience definitely played a good role. Here we have to be awful patient. We have to, we get to November and we have to pull all day sits, and we have to, have little windows where we have to shoot through, and we have to be patient and wait for that animal to get to an opening. Where out there, it's vast. But you also need a lot of patience, because there were times where I was like, all right, let's go chase that animal. And they're like, no, just wait. Let's kick back. Let's see what happens. So definitely patience of a northeastern hunter for sure, with all the thick forest that we have to hunt, definitely plays in. And then something I would bring back is just, I think, really trying to work and tone in on endurance. I think it's really important to try to be the best we can be in the woods. health-wise, because it can definitely kick your ass and be pretty humbling. And out there was a lot of times where I was like, yeah, this is real work. Like there's back home, if I get a good buck, I can call a couple buddies and be like, hey, come drag with me. Out there, every part of the animal is heavy, even when you cut it into 6 different pieces. You cut the moose into quarters, and then you break the ribs and cut those in half. And that rack is 80 to 100 pounds on the moose. So everything is heavy. So definitely endurance, I think, is a really good thing. Being able to shoot tired. You're trekking, you're on the move, you're covering a lot of ground, and being able to, catch your breath, steady yourself, and make a good shot is something that is really important. And that's something, even like back here, I try to do a lot. Like I'll run and then I'll shoot my bow, and I'll try to do it being out of breath. And I think it's really important to practice shooting, and not just your regular positions that we think of, not just, standing up right on the shoulder. Try to shoot sitting down, try to shoot in uncomfortable positions, so that if, as you guys know, there's times in the woods where you have to, improvise a lot. And just being ready for those opportunities is something I definitely encourage people to do.
Well, while we're on the topic, I want to know one thing. Now that you've gone to Alaska and now that you're back home, does your answer for what drives you outdoors change at all?
Get out there and just experience it. It's a beautiful thing. I think we're extremely blessed where we get to hunt, where we get to, spend time in the woods. And of course then go to our waters here. We're spoiled when it comes to what we have here, but go out and experience other places, see how other people hunt. Being outdoors and being able to see how other people, what drives them outdoors is really important. And exactly what you guys are doing here, taking the time to see other people's passions, how other people go about it, and how you can incorporate it with you, and things you can pick and choose. I think it's really important to try to be as sharp as you can. And what you guys are doing by having conversations with people, and, asking good questions is really important to be the best outdoorsman you can be.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate it, Nakai, man, coming back on a second time. Congratulations on just an amazing hunt, dude, and just some incredible things. And I can't wait, on your social media to be able to see more things in the videos and the pictures. And I'm really looking forward, honestly, and why I asked was the grizzly claws and the necklace. Like, I knew that was going to be a huge thing for you, and, like, I cannot wait to see pictures of that, because that's going to be just something crazy. I really, really looking forward to it, man. And once again, man, thanks for joining us. Can you just let everybody know where they can find you and follow along with all these things and see all the pictures and the videos that you have to, unveil over the next couple of months?
Yeah, so everything will be Rezlife Outdoors. So it's REZ Life Outdoors, all one word. That'll be on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and then also RezlifeOutdoors.com. For more additional information. And we offer programming. We'll have video content. We have some good whitetail that we'll be chasing soon that we have on camera that are starting to daylight. So hopefully we'll have some good bucks down in the near future. And we'll put up a bunch of good recipes on how to cook them. So tune in, and I'm looking forward to a really awesome journey. And I thank you guys for always constantly supporting since the beginning.
Absolutely, man. Well, we appreciate it. Everyone go and check out Nakai and what he's got going on, and check out all of his good pictures from Alaska. And for everyone else, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.